Morning guys, hope you're all okay and had a lovely weekend. Thank you for everyone who sent in work on Friday and over the weekend. It was really lovely to see, it was great. Harry and Belle, well done on your maths today. Finishing it already and it's, what's the time? 11:15 on Monday morning, well done. Freddie, thank you for all of your work that you sent in, it was brilliant, and those cookies and the banana bread looked amazing. It really did. Matty, thank you for everything you sent in. I really like your idea of a maths Nerf gun activity. Now, how can I get that past Mrs. Wokes? What do you reckon? I'll give it a go. Quinn, well done on everything you've done. Your quizzing, your writing and your maths. Well done, buddy. Evie, amazing work as usual. And what a skill you have. I really loved your creation, and I might have been putting in some orders of my own. So keep an eye out for those. Alyssa, amazing maths work as usual. Jake, thank you for your fact sheet that you sent through. Had some brilliant facts on. And James, well done on everything you sent through. I loved your drawing. Thank you guys. So we finished all of our short stories, so we thought we'd go on to a chapter book, which means back on my favourite author, Roald Dahl. And Miss Jones and I have chosen Fantastic Mr. Fox to read through next. So I think some of you have probably read it before, but let's give it a go now. Okay, chapter 1, The Three Farmers. Down in the valley there were 3 farms. The owners of these farms had done well. They were rich men. They were also nasty men. All 3 of them were about as nasty and mean as any men you could meet. Their names were Farmer Boggis, Farmer Bunce and Farmer Bean. And there they are there. Boggis was a chicken farmer. He kept thousands of chickens. He was enormously fat. This was because he ate 3 boiled chickens smothered with dumplings every day for breakfast, lunch and supper. Bunce was a duck and goose farmer. He kept thousands of ducks and geese. He was a kind of pot-bellied dwarf. He was so short his chin would have been underwater in the shallow end of any swimming pool in the world. His food was donuts and goose livers. Ugh. He mashed the livers into a disgusting paste. Then he stuffed the paste into the donuts. This diet... I always get somebody interrupting me. Always. Genuinely. Unbelievable. It's Mrs. Humphrey today. Can you believe it? Of course, come and say hello, Mrs. Humphrey. Why not? She's coming. I honestly thought Mr. Morris was busy teaching. Mrs. Morris wasn't around. And there's Mrs. Humphrey. She's arrived. Okay. Is it hilarious though? Is it? Okay. Oh, this is becoming a regular thing and I'm not even planning it. Right. He mashed the livers into a disgusting paste and then stuffed the paste into the donuts. This diet gave him a tummy ache and a beastly temper. There he is with his donuts, mashing the paste. Ugh. Bean was a turkey and apple farmer. He kept thousands of turkeys in an orchard full of apple trees. He never ate any food at all. Instead, he drank gallons of strong cider, which he made from the apples in his orchard. He was as thin as a pencil and the cleverest of them all. There he is. Wow, he is thin, isn't he? Boggis, Bunce and Bean. One fat, one short, one lean. These horrible crooks, so different in looks, were none the less equally mean. That is what the children round about used to sing when they saw them. Okay, chapter 2. Mr. Fox. On a hill above the valley there was a wood. In the wood there was a huge tree. Under the tree there was a hole. In the hole lived Mr. Fox and Mrs. Fox and their 4 small foxes. Every evening, as soon as it got dark, Mr. Fox would say to Mrs. Fox, "Well, my darling, what shall it be this time? A plump chicken from Boggis, a duck or goose from Bunce, or a nice turkey from Bean?" And when Mrs. Fox had told him what she wanted, Mr. Fox would creep down into the valley in the darkness of the night and help himself. Boggis, Bunce and Bean knew very well what was going on, and it made them wild with rage. They were not men who liked to give anything away. Less still did they like anything to be stolen from them. So every night each of them would take his shotgun and hide in a dark place somewhere on his farm, hoping to catch the robber. There's Mr. Fox on his way. But Mr. Fox was too clever for them. He was always He always approached a farm with the wind blowing in his face, and this meant that if any man were lurking in the shadows ahead, the wind would carry the smell of that man to Mr. Fox's nose from far away. Thus, if Mr. Boggis was hiding in his chicken house number 1, Mr. Fox would smell him out from 50 yards off and quickly change direction, heading for chicken house number 4 at the other end of the farm. "Dang and blast that lousy beast!" cried Boggis. "I'd like to rip his guts out," said Bunce. "He must be killed," cried Bean. "But how?" said Boggis. "How on earth can we catch the blighter?" Bean picked his nose delicately with a long finger. "Ugh. I have a plan," he said. "You've never had a decent plan yet," said Bunce. "Shut up and listen," said Bean. "Tomorrow night we will hide just outside the hole where the fox lives. We will wait until he comes out, then bang, 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 bang." "Very clever," said Bunce. "But first we'll have to find the hole." "My dear Bunce, I've already found it," said the crafty Bean. "It's up in the wood on the hill. It's under a huge tree." There they are planning. Well, that doesn't sound very good for Mr. Fox. Let's see what happens. Chapter 3, The Shooting. "Well, my darling," said Mr. Fox, "what shall it be tonight?" "I think we'll have duck tonight," said Mrs. Fox. "Bring us 2 fat ducks, if you please. 1 for you and me, and 1 for the children." "Ducks it shall be," said Mr. Fox. "Bunce is best." "Now do be careful," said Mrs. Fox. "Oh, my darling," said Mr. Fox, "I can smell those goons from a mile away. I can even smell one from the other. Boggis gives off a filthy stink of rotten chicken skins. Bunce reeks of goose livers, and as for Bean, the fumes of apple cider hang around him like poisonous gases." "Yes, but don't get careless," said Mrs. Fox. "You know they'll be waiting for you, all 3 of them." "Don't worry about me," said Mr. Fox. "I'll see you later." But Mr. Fox would not have been quite so cocky had he known exactly where the 3 farmers were waiting at that moment. They were just outside the entrance to the hole, each one crouching behind a tree with his gun loaded. And what is more, they had chosen their positions very carefully, making sure that the wind was not blowing from them towards the fox's hole. In fact, it was blowing the opposite direction. There was no chance of them being smelled out. Mr. Fox crept up the dark tunnel to the mouth of the hole. He poked his long, handsome face, out into the night air and sniffed once. He moved an inch or 2 forward and stopped. He sniffed again. He was always especially careful when coming out from his hole. He inched forward a little more. The front half of his body was now in the open. His black nose twitched from side to side, sniffing and sniffing for the scent of danger. He found none. He was just about to go trotting forward into the wood when he heard, or thought he heard, a tiny noise, a soft rustling sound, as though someone had moved a foot ever so gently through a patch of dry leaves. Mr. Fox flattened his body against the ground and lay very still, his ears pricked. He waited a long time, but he heard nothing more. It must have been a field mouse, he told himself, or some other small animal. He crept a little further out of his hole, then further still. He was almost right out in the open now. He took a last careful look around. The wood was murky and very still. Somewhere in the sky the moon was shining. Just then his sharp night eyes caught a glint of something bright behind a tree not far away. It was a small silver speck of moonlight shining on a polished surface. Mr. Fox lay still, watching it. What on earth was it? Now it was moving. It was coming up and up. Great heavens! It was the barrel of a gun! Quick as a whip, Mr. Fox jumped back into the hole, and at that same instant the entire wood seemed to explode around him. Bang, 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 bang! The smoke from the 3 guns floated upwards in the night air. Boggis and Bunce and Bean came out from behind their trees and walked towards the hole. "Did we get him?" said Bean. One of them shone a flashlight on the hole, and there on the ground, in a circle of light, half in, half out of the hole, lay a poor, lay the poor, tattered remains of a fox's tail. Bean picked it up. "We got the tail, but we missed the fox," he said, tossing the thing away. There they are. He took Mr. Fox's tail. "Dang and blast," said Boggis. "We shot too late. We should have let fly the moment he poked his head out." "He won't be poking it out again in a hurry," Bunce said. Bean pulled a flask of cider from his pocket and took a swig. Then he said, "It'll take 3 days at least before he gets hungry enough to come out again. I'm not sitting around here waiting for that. Let's dig him out." "Ah," said Boggis, "now you're talking. We can dig him out in a couple of hours. We know he's down there." "I reckon there's a whole family of them down in that hole," said Bunce. "Then we'll have the lot," said Bean. "Get the shovels." Right, I am going to stop there. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and one of us will speak to you tomorrow. Bye, guys.